Welcome back, everybody. It's Ralph Humphrey, and my topic is rhythmic awareness. Episode 2, I finished off the conversation with using the word cyclic or cycle, and so that's the topic for today. So, what is a cycle? Where did it come from? And how do we use it? Well, first of all, a cycle is a phrase of any length, of any sort of accent configuration, and it exists independent of the time signature or the beat or the bar line. Okay? It comes from India, the idea of cyclic music. It's been there for centuries. India's music is classical in nature, so it really doesn't change much. And their system is unique and way different than the European Western culture that we're used to. So a cycle then, again, is comprised of a series of groups of notes. And the smallest group would be 2, and thereafter it would be 3, and then 4, and then 5, and 6, etc. All right, so the 2s and the 3s are the building blocks, and multiples of those 2 numbers give you the other bigger numbers. I was introduced to this whole idea of cyclic music when I was introduced to Don Ellis and his big band. I first heard his big band in 1967, and to me it was very exciting to hear this new kind of music because Don, a great jazz trumpet player, decided to study Indian music with the purpose of bringing the concepts of Indian music, especially the rhythms, into a big band setting. That's a very unique fusion of 2 styles of music, but Don did it quite well. And he created a band that was very exciting, very new, and for me quite inspirational because it gave me a whole other viewpoint of what rhythm was all about. I studied with Don. Don studied with the Indian master Harihar Rao, along with other musicians in LA at the time. And we were all learning about this new way of thinking about music. And then I joined Don in 1968, luckily for me, and there I had to learn how to play his music. So I had to learn how to think like him because that's how he was writing his music. I remember one instance in particular. It's a tune called Orientation, and it's on his great record called Live in Monterey. It was the debut of the band, and it went over quite well, and the world now knew who Don Ellis was. And there's a tune on there, of course, that, amongst others, is in an odd meter. Well, we talk about odd meters today, but you can also think of the cycle as being not a metric system, but a cyclic system. So it exists independent of time signatures. All right, so Don would count off this one tune, and I'm going to count it for you right now. But first of all, the number 2 in India uses the syllables taka, the number 3, takita, and the number 4, takadimi. All right, there are syllables for 5 and 6 and 7, etc., but we don't need to do that for our conversation today. All right, so Don would get in front of the band, and Don was a very exciting musician, exuberant, maybe even over-exuberant at times. And he would count it off like this: takita, takadimi, takita, takadimi, taka. I'm going to give you a minute to think about what that rhythm actually is in terms of the number of notes in that phrase. How are we doing? Okay, I'm going to give you the answer. Here we go. There are 16 notes in that phrase. All right, so takita, which is a 3, and takadimi, which is a 4, another takita, another takadimi, and a taka. 16. Well, 16 can also relate to 4/4. Takita, takadimi, takita, takadimi, taka, takita, takadimi, takita, takadimi, taka. But Don would, of course, count the tune off cyclically, and then the band would come in with that very rhythm. And so you could see and you could hear right away that the rhythm was almost more important than the beat structure that it was built on. In a future lesson, I want to talk about how the cycle concept and the metric concept can come together and help you with your rhythm. Now you have 2 viewpoints about how the rhythm works. Okay, so what's important here is to know that a cycle comes from India, but it's in our music now. It's always been in our music. We've never thought of it that way because we have learned in a different system. So now I'm offering to you the benefit of bringing a second system into your thinking about rhythm. I'm sure there's music that you hear where you have a difficult time understanding the organization of the rhythm. And you're trying to look for the beat, you can't find it. Maybe you finally find the one of the beat, but then thereafter it's very confusing. Well, start thinking of the rhythm in terms of accents being the one of a group and see if you can decide the grouping of the phrase. And that might give you a clue as to what the time signature actually is. It could be odd. A lot of the music that we hear nowadays is in an odd structure. All right, we've come a long way. Okay, so again, I hope this helps you to identify maybe music that you listen to. As a player, it gives you, again, another viewpoint for understanding rhythm. And we're going to continue this discussion in the next episode. I hope you join me. Until then, take care.